Today we're running goats. Welcome back to more SOVL PVP. Today we're going to be putting this Goatmen Raiders list through its paces. Now, after running a lot of cute lists that move around and just continually losing on objective points, basically, I just got fed up and wanted a list that can just get into Maddie and just kind of smash face, play the objective game. So I've returned to my beloved Goatman, probably my favourite army. But this time we've gone with the more melee-focused commander in the Longhorn. Let's take a quick look through this list. No additional items or weapons on the Longhorn. I think its main use in this army is just that one once per battle Warcry ability, giving everything +1 power. Goatman warriors, hand weapons as wide as possible, do as much damage on a charge. Mongrel pack as the battle line choice again. Want to just get in people's faces, hand weapons wide as possible. And then Feral Giant. I think Minotaurs would be really good in this sort of list, but I just love the Feral Giant. I think maybe one of my favourite units in the game with the Boulder throw. And then rounding out 3 speedy units. I'm kind of undecided on the Chariot versus Hounds sort of debate with Goatman. So Hounds give you more base attacks with 10, 1 less defense. So the Chariot's a little bit tankier, but then obviously has that really strong initial charge. But I think the kind of Hounds, you want to be doing all the damage in the charge because it's not like they're sticking around either. I don't really know. So I've gone for 2 Chariots and 1 unit of Hounds to kind of balance it up. I think the Hounds as well, I should mention, better maneuverability, which may tip it kind of in their favour. But what I also like about the Chariot is multi-wound units. They don't lose any of their combat effectiveness as they lose wounds, if that makes sense. So even on 1 wound less, it's still doing its maximum number of attacks. Whereas if this unit has 1 wound left, it's only 1 model and you're in 1 attack or 2 attacks, if that makes sense. Anyway, we are going to be looking to play far up, kind of control objectives and just smash in the face. So let's get into it. Our first matchup is against Deepwood Guardians, and SOVL is still not showing objectives in replays, but there's one slap bang in the middle here, so I kind of set up pretty centrally because I really want to go all in on that. Most of my stuff is either screened or in cover. I don't mind them shooting at my Mongrel pack, and I have first turn, so I'm not too worried about this Chariot being exposed, as I could move it either into the cover or behind the trees here. However, and this is just a kind of minor thing I'm noticing, I could have simply have just deployed it back slightly and to the right slightly to screen it off from any potential shooting from this direction. So really small thing, but these are the minor things that I think build up and separate the good players from the great ones. So I'm trying to notice them more and point them out in these videos. But let's zoom out and take a look at my opponent's list, and we are against corner camping. Corner camping with a lot of range units kind of went a bit out of fashion with the changes to objectives. Objectives being a lot stronger, but yeah, my opponent has gone with the Deepwood Noble with cruelty, which is nice on the Noble because it triggers on both the bow and in combat, with some archers, some Deepwood Rangers that are a really nice but expensive unit, a kind of chaffy screen unit of Deepwood Guard, and then 1 Chariot. So as we kind of get into this one, I would normally be okay with this Chariot on Chariot matchup, but I didn't realize the elf one has Swift, so is actually able to get me in their charge arc while staying outside of mine. And as we know, with the crushing charge, being on the charge of the Chariot is also important. And then my opponent just moves this guard up slightly, which kind of tells me that they're content to wait in this corner and wait for me to come to them. But I'm now controlling the objective and getting 50 points a turn. So I decide, I'm just going to sit behind the trees and then wait for them to come to me instead. That's going to be the plan. So a bit of a kind of weird one. We'll see how this shakes out. My opponent seems to be targeting my commander's unit. And I make another small mistake here because I move my giant up completely unnecessarily to this position and then block the movement from my commander's unit, which you'll just kind of you'll see here. My opponent gets the chariot charge. I can't move this now out, down, behind this terrain, so I have to move the giant back to where it was. Allows my opponent to shoot. So again, just kind of small mistake here, but definitely the kind of things I want to tighten up. I think my opponent now sees what I'm doing and decides to start finally moving forward, but I'm still getting kind of 50 points a turn at this rate. Again, I don't mind my opponent taking shots at the Mongrel pack, much rather than shoot that than pretty much anything else. And thankfully my Chariot survives this first round of combat, despite my opponent getting all of those charge bonuses and me not getting any of those. So despite my best efforts to keep my commander's unit out of the firing line, they still are whittling it down. Oh, and here, I should mention this, my opponent moves the deep guard onto the objective here. And I think I was a little bit just sort of blinded by, okay, my plan is to hold the objective. So I move my Mongrel pack over here so I can charge into the rear. I'm not sure whether I would have been able to get into the flank of the Rangers up here by moving this way, but I don't think I even took a look, looked at that. And in hindsight, that if I could get into the flank, that probably would have been better. But again, I was just a little bit too focused on plan A, which is just maintain this objective at all costs. So move the pack down. So yeah, bit of an oversight there. I move the chariot up to threaten my opponent's commander's unit. Bit of a stalemate over here. And then again, I get into the rear here with the Mongrel pack, but then I also charge with the giant. And my thinking is that I just want to guarantee, I just want to wipe this battle line unit out. But then actually these are not in particularly good positions after that. I charge my opponent's commander's unit with the chariot. Don't fancy my chances necessarily in that combat, but I'm hoping it can maybe just survive at least one round of combat, and the whole time it's just preventing this unit from shooting. Once again, my opponent is able just to sneak round to get more pot shots. I'm not doing a very good job of blocking that off there. And this battle line unit is just able to tank all of these hits and does not run. Not only that, but my chariot does in fact flee. So while we've got kind of numbers of units and more points from the objectives at this stage, both my chariots were remaining on 1, which means they're easy pickings for these ranged units. I'm not quite sure why I thought this unit would be able to get in range to shoot at this, but obviously my opponent doesn't there. Once again, this battle line unit is just not going anywhere, and tying both of these units up. And again, because of the kind of positioning of these, even if they then might wipe it this turn, neither are going to be in a position to then charge, and we're getting to the late stages of this game. A charge. My hound's in just because at this point I'm thinking I need to kind of get lucky and just have one really good combat against my opponent's commander. We roll well, we do a good amount of damage, but we fail 5 of the 6 4-up saves, and the dogs are no more. And now, going to the final turn, I haven't added up the points. I think I'm ahead by 100 points from objectives here, and I make an incredibly silly mistake because I would expect this Mongrel pack to flee. They only have 6 discipline, and I choose to move my giant into the woods so it potentially doesn't die to the Deepwood Rangers. But what that means is, as we move forward, yes, my giant survives, but my opponent is going to claim the objective for one final round. So as we go to the scores, it's a defeat, but it's a close defeat only by 42 points. So that last 50 points my opponent got literally on the last turn made all the difference there. So yeah, a lot of little mistakes I think that I made in that one, but a really interesting game, really fun one nonetheless. Okay, next match is the Goatmen mirror match, and there's one objective in the middle. As often I like to do on these kind of maps with this kind of list, I deploy everything on one side of the boulder. Yeah, really just want to get up in my opponent's face. And as we take a look though at my opponent's list, the list looks mighty familiar. I don't want to say it is my list or anything like that, but it's really similar to the one that I ran in the SOVL Showdown tournament, down to the Hex of Ruin, 2 units of skirmishers, Chariot, Boulder throw on a giant. The only slight difference is 1 unit of warriors instead of Mongrel pack. And I think that's maybe with the change of Hex of Ruin being slightly more. The 10 warriors, you lose out on the ambusher versus the Mongrel pack, but you have 1 more power but only 10 models. But because it's 10 models, they're still cheaper, and that allows you to field, I guess, 1 extra skirmisher as well. So yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of another there. My opponent has deployed yeah, pretty aggressively as well. So this game is going to be all about the opening turns. I do have a slight advantage in that I have an additional unit. So let's see how that kind of like comes into play here. But just as I would do, Hex of Ruin on my commanding unit, and they're popping everything out on there. And you know, I've got a lot of options now here. But I really like the move I just did. Let's take a look at this pro move right here. That there with the Mongrel pack. I know they're going to be wanting to shoot off my commander's unit. And that really is going to make that difficult for this skirmisher's unit. Still going to get the boulder throw from the giant, which my opponent takes straight away. Left with 2 models though. And I'm getting them out of dodge, just able to get outside of this unit's charge range. As I said, kind of in the intro, I think the main utility from this unit is that once per battle war cry. I just really want this unit to survive, so I can at least use that. And another huge thing is just the points. I wouldn't mind otherwise, but you know, if this unit dies, my opponent's going to get all the points for the commander and the unit of warriors. And now this is all going to be about sort of subtle positioning. I want to get a boulder throw off on the Chariot. I believe is going to be the best target. So I'm kind of waiting for them to move that before I move my giant. I'm a bit, if I'm correct in thinking this is now fully going to screen off the shooting from the skirmishers, no matter how they move it. The next best target for the skirmishers is going to be the hounds, I think. So I'm thinking that, so I'm wanting to keep them behind the cover of this forest for as long as possible. So I move a chariot, and here I'm trying to think about, okay, what matchups do I want? I think any three of these units into the flank of the skirmishers would be good. Obviously, if I can get a flank on the chariot, that would be good. This mongrel pack is like right in the thick of it, and basically my opponent's going to have their pick of charges against it, and I'm okay with that. That's kind of my, you know, I mean, a lot of my units are pretty dispensable, but maybe one of my more dispensable, so I'm fine with, I offered up the flank charge here when I moved it. I'm fine with that. They don't move their chariot much, just trying to cover off this sort of side. And then, yeah, as I said, I've got more units, and the Goatmen Warriors, without that ambusher actually coming into play here, isn't really going to be able to get into the action this turn. Position my giant to charge the skirmishers. I think even though they've got Hexaverin left, I'm confident my giant can tank that and just stick around. They are outside of charge range for me, so I think all of their skirmishers are going to be hitting on 2-ups against my giant. So yeah, I want this matchup here. Not able to take up my chariot with shooting, and I'm just able to sneak into the flank here of the skirmishers. So charges. Can't remember exactly the ordering in which I do the charges. I believe my opponent charges the mongrel pack first. I decide basically that I'm okay with a chariot versus chariot matchup. If it means I can get the hounds here, I can get the giant here. I'm really unfortunate this chariot doesn't actually have a clear line to either of these units. I thought it would. Something I'm still kind of learning about. But something I think my opponent maybe neglected is they probably could have got this charge in without me getting the counter charge. So that's going to be pretty big for my mongrel pack, who have the hand weapons, which of course give you a bonus power on the charge. So indeed, we get the rest. My opponent opts to pop the Hexaverin on the chariot. And we've got 4 units in melee combat. I'm gonna pop the war cry here. Again, my opponent's Goatman unit not doing much. Keep my commanded unit just out of the way for now. And really, maybe we'll just like speed through the rest of this, because as you see here, my opponent loses the combat with the giant against the mongrel pack and rolls an 11. That makes it charge, which is huge. That is absolutely huge. And together with me getting some of these more, what I think are favourable charges, is really going to swing this one in my favour, I think. I lose the combat with the between the chariots, and mine runs away, but I'd much rather lose a chariot than have my giant run. But skirmishers run, and they're just going to get run down continuously by these hounds. My giant has been taking a beating, rolling a lot of 1s on 2-ups. I don't know if you've been noticing, but thankfully he's sticking around. And also thankfully my mongrel pack are able to survive the flank charge from my opponent's warriors. And yeah, I think this is a combat where my giant is finally able to break my opponent's commander's unit, and that is going to be all she wrote. So yeah, really interesting round. I think really, unfortunate for my opponent that their giant ran. I think that could have really, changed the outcome of this match. Otherwise, I think, unfortunately, well, I don't think the 1 unit of skirmishers and the giant boulder throw would be expected to take this out. So I'm pretty pleased with my kind of that one move to screen the other unit of skirmishers to keep this unit alive. And then, yeah, I think otherwise that this match just came down to a little bit of list composition, me having just like one additional unit in that all important first turn, maneuvering, meaning I can get the combats that I wanted. But yeah, good game. Finally, then we got a bit of a weird one because I'm deployed here, on the left side, and as we zoom out to look at my opponent's list, yeah, they are in the corner down here with one massive unit of Imperial Knights led by the Knight Commander, a slow-moving unit of Foot Knights, and just a mortar. And there are two objectives on this one. This one here on the left of the screen is close to my opponent, and then there's one here on the right I'm hoping to tag with my Chariot. So one big scary unit, and then nothing else that's really going to be able to contest these objectives from where they are. So yeah, a bit of a weird one. I know I'm going to score this objective, move my Chariot up just onto this one because they would have been able to move their knights onto it. And I want to start getting those points from objectives as soon as possible. And I don't have much else to do other than just kind of create this wave kind of crashing along from this side of the battlefield. My opponent then leaves my Chariot on 1 wound and does me a favour of then screening off for next turn with their unit of knights. So he's not able to, he or she, not able to get a shot off. I know my kind of Chariot's going down, but at this point I'm thinking at some point I'm going to have to deal with this unit. It has the mobility. I can't just sit back and try and score points from objectives. So it's going to be about laying a bit of a trap. I'm going to have to offer up a few of my units, I think. So here, yeah, I just charge in with the Chariot. This means that their unit is off the objective, so I'm going to continue scoring. And my opponent, I kind of glossed over it, but has taken 2 shots now after that initial one on this Chariot at the giant. I think they probably would have been better off going after this Chariot, more chance to destroy it, and this is the one now threatening this mortar. If the Foot Knights turn to fight it after the charge here, which I'm expecting they will, I'm kind of okay with that because it means they're not coming to help out this unit. Chariot goes down as expected, but is able to take out 1 knight. And then here I have a bit of a decision to make because my opponent is in range for this charge, has first choice and elects not to. And now I have this charge available. And in the interest of kind of like setting up the good combat that I want, I thought long and hard about it. I wasn't sure if these guys could get around, but in the end I do decide to take it. Fully expecting these hounds to lose. And I believe I'm just able to get into this flank with my commander's unit. So everything's going to plan. My opponent turns at this point to fight the Chariot, which in one sense is the kind of obvious play, but actually probably could have, if they moved this over to then start also dealing with these units, probably would have worked out much better for them. So my dogs go down. They pop their Furious Charge buff. I pop Warcry. Chariot goes down as expected. Annoying, I never actually ended up getting that mortar. But at this point, I've got scored so many points from objectives, And, you know, with just the volume of attacks, attacking 3 sides with Warcry, we were able to wipe out this scary unit. We sprung the trap, got the combat we wanted. We're so far ahead now. I'm just walking away. I don't need to fight anymore. I'm not sure exactly what the point situation is, but I'm pretty sure I'm ahead anyway and way ahead with the objectives. So, given that I think the mortar can only fire 2d3 plus 1 hits, I'm just going to kind of screen these units with my commander's unit, make sure they can't get any more points. And yeah, that's going to be a pretty decisive victory. So yeah, bit of a strange one. I think some of my opponents' sort of target selection could have been a bit better. But yeah, just a bit of a weird, interesting one. I liked how my kind of army just flooded over from left to right. And that'll do it for this one. If you like the video, like, subscribe, do all that good stuff for the YouTube algorithm. And until next time, bye bye.